Okay, now you see we have a shortage going on here, and we have a red line that is down below the equilibrium. So we call this a ceiling, because what you're going to see is something has happened to not allow the price to go above that red line. Remember, the price always wants to go to that equilibrium, right? There's pressure on that price to go up, 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 up to that equilibrium point right there, okay? But something has stepped in, and most of these situations we're going to see, or a lot of situations, we see the government has done that, okay? And we've got 2 or 3 examples here that may relate to you, and you may be, maybe even more so than the surplus situation. The classic example is what we call rent control, and this took place in New York City, and it still has an impact today. This occurred back in the 1960s, I would say, and the government said, this is ridiculous. Prices for a 1-bedroom apartment or condo or whatever, and I'm using today's prices, is a little over $4,000 in this situation, all right? We don't have the red line in place yet, so the market clearing price for a 1-bedroom condo or apartment in New York City is $4,000, all right? And we have 60,000 people that want to live in those apartments at that price. Well, the government officials said that's crazy. Our policemen, our firemen, our teachers, our restaurant workers can't afford to live in the city in which they live. And this would be, of course, in Manhattan. So the city stepped in and said, we're going to change the laws. If you are renting out an apartment, a 1-bedroom apartment, you can only rent that out for $2,000. If you charge anybody more than that, then that's a crime. All right? So the government stepped in, and what they saw was a huge surplus, or I'm sorry, a shortage, okay? Because at a price of $2,000, nobody went into the landlord business. People who were in the landlord business got out of it, and we ended up with 40,000 units for sale. Again, notice where the $2,000 line crosses the supply. So we had 40,000 units for sale, and there was no motivation for people to keep their apartments nice. So eventually, rental housing became very, very run down, because you can only rent it for $2,000. You know, if they complain, go ahead and move out. Somebody else will move in. So lots and lots of problems with fixing prices like this. So anyway, the supply is 40,000 here we see, but now all of a sudden your policemen, firemen, teachers, people who are working in the restaurant industry or at the malls or whatever, are also wanting to live in Manhattan because they can afford to at $2,000. So we see 80,000 people want to live there. That's the demand, where that $2,000 line crosses the demand curve. All right. So we have a demand of 80,000. We have a supply of 40,000. So we subtract those two, and we end up with a shortage of 40,000 apartments in this situation. So I simply subtracted 80,000 minus 40,000, and I got a shortage of 40,000 apartments in New York City. All right, so that's one example. And as we move on to add to that, when it came to the 80s, the people of New York, the decision makers, realized what kind of a mistake this was. So they said, okay, we're going to do away with this red line. We're going to let the free market rule, and we're going to get rid of this red line. Well, the people who were currently paying $2,000 flipped out. They said, you can't do that, you can't do that. So they compromised. They said, those of you who are currently paying the rent control price, you guys are going to stay there forever. We're not going to let your landlord raise your rent. However, once you move out, or if somebody builds a new apartment, they can rent it out for whatever they want, whatever the market will bear. So you end up with people who are still living there today under the rent control price. And you have some people living right next door who are paying 2, 3, 4 times as much because they are living in an apartment that's not in rent control. There's still a story about a lady who lives at the Ritz-Carlton in New York City. She moved there in the 70s and was there under rent control, and she paid like $280 a month. And it was an apartment at the time. It wasn't a hotel, a real fancy hotel. And along came the Ritz-Carlton hotel complex in the 80s that bought out this apartment. Well, she's paying $280 a month. She still is paying $280 a month to live in a hotel where they commonly charge $500, $600 a night, because by law, the Ritz-Carlton Hotel Company cannot kick her out of that apartment or that hotel room because she moved in under rent control. So that's kind of funny. Another situation where we will see the effect of a shortage is with concert tickets and Christmas gifts, right? A lot of times If you've ever been to a sold-out concert, you know that prices are way, way too low. So as a result, you have a demand that's way over here, and you have a supply that's over here to the left. As a result, you end up with a sold-out show, and some people who are willing to pay for the ticket, but they don't have the money to do so. Or I'm sorry, they do have the money to do so, but they just can't get a ticket. All right? And again, same rule effects on the binding part of this. If this red line were to be up above the equilibrium point, that would be a non-binding price ceiling. All right? Down here, the price wants to go to that equilibrium, so we say that that is a binding price ceiling. Okay, now I want you to grab the purple packet, which is up in the front of the room or has been uploaded to assignments, but if you're in class, it's going to be up in the front of the room. And I will probably collect a page or two from this next time. So make sure you do it all. I don't know which page or two I'm going to collect, but make sure you go through the first 5 pages. All right, first actual 5 pages of the worksheet. All right, here of the packet. You don't need to do the last 3 or 4 pages, but the first 5 pages, front and back, you should have done before next class. And what I've shown you here on this slide is how you want to set up your full graph for the very first page, the change in the supply and demand of gasoline. Okay, so that will give you a starting point on that. Down at the bottom of that first page on the purple packet, you will see that it says there's a headline and then demand, supply, equilibrium price, equilibrium quantity. What you do is you look at the headline and you decide whether that changes demand or changes supply. It's not going to change both. It's going to change one of the two. And then when that occurs, what happens to price and what happens to quantity. All right. Now, back to the top part of that purple packet. What you're going to end up with is 2 demand curves when you're done and 2 supply curves when you're done. So you have 2 X's. You have 2 X's on this graph page. And if you look back to about the 3rd or 4th page, you'll see the graph paper that you can do this first page on. So I'm not sure why those aren't together, but anyway, good luck, and let me know if you have any questions.